say to my dad, I'm failing, it's making him mad. But when I'm out on the streets, it's alright. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. I'm hot and I'm cold, I'm afraid of growing old.
Listen to the Vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes, and I'm very privileged to have the lead vocalist and founding member of the Furies, Mr. Jeff Wolfe. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fine, Kyle. How are you?
Man, I'm awesome. You got some new music coming out.
We do. We did it. In fact, I even have examples. We did an album last year that did real well. The Furies Again, which was recorded during the pandemic at my partner Dave Luty's home studio, but it did well. You know, we had a number of downloads, and we got on about 130 radio markets with it, so we got some number ones off of it. So we now have a current release, which just came out last week, is a compilation of all our 70s and 80s recordings. We had 3 singles out in the 70s. Hey Ma, Jim Stark Dark. That's the first cover. And then here's the second cover, because that cover's crap. And then we had Say Goodbye to Black Sheep, which was an international sensation in 1978. The first 2 came out in 77. And then Moving Target, which came out in 1979. And then we had this mini album that we recorded for EMI in the 80s, Indoor Outdoor. So all these songs from these records are on the new CD, which is called New Wave Hit Parade, but it's all vintage material. And then on this one, The Sound of the Furies, we did a version of The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore in 2016 with Brian Wilson's string section that came out really well. So that's kind of a bonus track on the New Wave Hit Parade release that just came out last week. So. And then we're going to, we've got an upcoming single, and then in late October, early November, we're going to go into the Foo Fighters studio with our band and record a full album. So there's a lot going on. It's really exciting.
Before we get into it any further, tell us a little bit more about you.
I'm 70 years old, and I'm still singing, which makes me very happy. All the guys in the band are around the same age. I have 2 wonderful kids that are both grown-ups. My daughter, as I said, is visiting here from Brooklyn, and my son just turned 30. Oh, and
I have one that's 31.
Oh, okay. So you understand. It's a real whoa. But you know, they're both great, good kids. And as I said, we have a video for Glitter Bomb from Furies Again that my son directed and edited. And it's in black and white, and it's very film noir looking. So I'm really excited about that. He's carrying on the creative tradition. Mm-hmm. And my daughter wants to be a writer, and she's working on that too. She's applying to various publishers in New York and stuff. So it's a really good thing. I grew up in a very small town in rural Wisconsin called Manitowoc. Mm-hmm. So I have small town roots. My dad moved us out here to California in the mid '60s. And then, you know, from there, you know, 60s, I grew up in the 60s. So the music was just unbelievably great. So I was schooled in that. I remember seeing Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show at my grandma's house in Manitowoc. So I go that far back. Just still love Elvis, still listen to him all the time. And in the 60s, you know, I got into, you know, the Beatles and the Stones and the Beach Boys and Dylan and all those guys, but I also was very deeply involved in country music. So I loved Waylon and Merle and George Jones, and of course Hank Williams. I've listened to all my life. So I've been very fortunate to have a very eclectic interest in music. I also love rhythm and blues and soul music from that era too. But I always go, you know, in essence, you can always go back to Hank. It all starts with Hank. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that started all of this rock and roll and country. He's the guy, and he did it intrinsically. You know, he didn't have any training. He just just had it in him, and he did it. So Hank is my main man. So.
Well, why did you get the band The Furies started in the first place?
Music. Our first record came out in 1977, and at that time, the music scene was just awful. We it was just all just kind of, pina colada and just lame, no power. All the power of the 60s and the early 70s pretty much dissipated from the charts. Instead of hearing the Yardbirds or the Who or the Rolling Stones on the charts, you're hearing these lame one-hit wonders. They're just singing these vapid songs. So I had a very good friend of mine from high school, Greg Embry, and he and I were good pals, and we just walk around, talk about how shitty music was. And he's an excellent musician. I'm out of touch with him now, but back then he was great. So I go, we should just start a band, and we didn't know what to do. That's why we put out a record, because we knew no record label would sign us. So we put out a record. We printed up 500. Didn't think it. This was in '77. We had 500 copies. I didn't think. I figured we'd have 400 more sitting in a garage for the next 40 years. But in actual fact, we sold out those first 500. In a couple of weeks. Record stores were buying 2 and 3 here and there. We just drove around, sold them to record stores, and they put them on the counter and they sold. So we reprinted it with a better cover in '77, and then in '78 we did another record, and that just took off like crazy. It was all over K-Rock, and we were getting international attention, and we sold thousands and thousands of them. Like, whoa. So that was in February '77, and then we played. We had been playing venues in Orange County at garages and rec rooms, and just one-off weird venues. But then we played the Whiskey a Go-Go, and that really took off. So throughout the '70s, we were really quite popular. And as the '70s wrapped up and we got into the '80s, Greg and I moved to Hollywood, kept the band going with other players. And then at the end of the '80s, I was like, I'm done doing this. So I started playing in the Horse Soldiers, which was a vintage country western band that also did historic cowboy songs. So I did that for 20 years. Did really, really well with that. We played all over the Southwest, all over, hundreds and hundreds of shows. Primarily outside in the daytime, which was at the beginning of that era was a new, whoa, wait, there's people out here in the daytime? But it got to the point where it was just such a wonderful experience. And then some of the members of the Horse Soldiers moved out of town, and so I decided in 2007, I think, 8, to start doing the Furies again. And so here we are, 15, whatever it is, years later. So it's very exciting. I mean, I got a great band these days. Just they're great. Jeff Gerard on guitar. He used to be in the Motels. Cliff Roman, also on guitar, used to be in the Weirdos, so they have a huge legacy. Our drummer, Ray Heron, was in the Swans, which was a legendary garage band of the '60s. He's great. And then Dave Lutie, my partner, who I write all the songs with, has been with me for 10 years, longer than anybody else. And he is from England. He's from Manchester. And he, when he was living in England, his band, the Cheaters, was voted the hardest working band in England. They did 340 dates in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, they went crazy. And he said, in his bio, he says, yeah, we did 340 dates in 1 year. And that's why we were broke. But they just got in that van and went all over. They went to France and Germany, and they just played everywhere. But he's a phenomenal player. He plays every instrument. And a great guy. Everybody in this band is just the current lineup. Everybody's just a really great guy and really into it. So it makes me very happy. And happy is good, as we know.
I grew up in the '70s, and I loved all the rock of that era in the '60s and the '50s. And I guess I'm hard-headed in my old age. I'm not really into a lot of the new music. I mean, not that everything's bad, but I'm not into the hip hop and all the other stuff that's going on. What's your general thought of the music nowadays?
if you look hard enough, you can find some decent acts, but they're not on the charts. They're not making money, and they're not playing big gigs. Most of the stuff that's out there is one-dimensional. A lot of these singers are driven by auto-tune and not actual talent. I know you know. And there's no songs. You know, I mean, in our era, Kyle, there were actual songs. Iron Maiden wrote great songs, and they could sing. He's a great singer, and they could play the hell out of it. These days, it's just all fake sounding to me. I know it's extremely popular. Another aspect of the music business now that's different from when I was first started in the 70s is that there's no money in making records. I used to get a check from BMI, a royalty check every quarter for Say Goodbye to the Black Sheep. And those just dried up when streaming came in. Streaming is just, a rip. We sold, so far, we sold 3,000 downloads on New Wave Hit Parade. My check, $12.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah, it's horrifying. So they expect you to make money at venues, but as Dave said, we played all these gigs and that's why we're broke. It's the same thing, especially here in LA, you play somewhere and they expect you to play for nothing. That was the beauty of being in the Horse Soldiers, is that in country, they expect to pay you. They know that if you're going to play 5 sets a night, which we did all the time, they have to pay you. But now it's just, I hate to be a Captain Buzzkill, but it's pretty terrifying. You have to really love it to keep going.
Well, it's no wonder ticket prices have gone so sky high.
True. Because, I read somewhere I think it was Bette Midler, and she had like 1,250,000 downloads of one of her classic songs, and her check was like for $1,500. It's like,
jeez, man.
And the guys, this is what kills me, is these guys that run the downloading services and stuff, they don't write songs, they don't sing, yet they're making all the money. That's just bass backwards, in my opinion. Call me crazy, but I don't think I am. At least not in that regard.
Jeez, that's got to make it really hard for people to try to make it in the music business then.
Oh yeah. I feel sorry for young bands that are actually good, because, and the cost, just, fuel and accommodations and everything. If you get in a van and drive around to play dates, you're lucky if you break even. Lucky. Merchandise is the only guaranteed income generating device in the music business, especially live. If you have t-shirts and stickers and all that crap, you'll sell that stuff because you're certainly not going to get it from music sales.
That's why I guess Gene Simmons made sure that Kiss was put on everything he could put his hands on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was the king of branding before branding was even a term. I mean, you'd see those shirts all over the place, just long. The Stones too. You saw that tongue logo everywhere, and still do. I mean, I heard their new song and I thought it was great. So if you feel it, you got to keep going. Mick and Keith are 80 now and they're still going, and that just thrills me. I saw them live 7 or 8 years ago down in Orange County, and they kicked ass. They still kicked ass. So that thrills me too. It's like, you can keep going. Why not? And why not? Why not? It makes you happy.
What inspires you to write music?
Often I write about literary subjects that I remember. There's 2 songs on The Furies Again that are based on literary subjects. Miss Havisham Regrets, which is homage to Charles Dickens, and Please Mr. Kafka, which is a homage to the German surrealist writer Franz Kafka. So I think about that. I live on the edge of a 10-mile canyon that's just shockingly beautiful. I'm very, very lucky. We live in Chatsworth on the old Iverson Movie Ranch location. So there's this huge canyon just behind me here. And I go down there all the time, and the birds are singing and the sun is shining. So I write about nature a lot too, just the beauty of nature and how much it affects me. I don't really write love songs per se. because that subject has been over covered. So they don't need to hear what I think about love, but I do try to write about unique subjects. And quite often, Dave will concoct a track that it's just great. It's melodic. It's just great. And I'll go over to his studio and I'll just listen to it. And in the midst of hearing it for the first time, I'll start singing something to it that just fits because we're so simpatico. So sometimes it's just shows up. I mean, it's great. It's great. Other times, you have to belabor it a little bit, but not that much. We have a recent song I wrote about a guy who's a German who's in love with a Spanish woman, and they don't speak each other's language. So it's called She Don't Understand. And it's just about how, they try to communicate other ways besides their language. And it's kind of funny, and it's a fun song and it's very catchy. And so that's one of our latest ones. So, you just find something that piques your interest and carry on with it,
Y'all are going on a little tour this fall?
Yes, we're going to start playing a number of venues in California. And from that point, we will also look to going over to Europe. And bands of our vintage and the era that we were in, the new wave power pop punk era in the 70s in LA especially, are enjoying a resurgence. And a lot of guys that I know that are from that same era have been going over to Spain, England, and Germany to play gigs, and it's really successful. They pay well. They put, they accommodate, they accommodate you. So we're looking at that idea too. So great. Looking forward to that. It may predate my tour of the D-Day invasion sites that we're going on. My wife and I are going on in May. We're going to England, Normandy, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany to see all these sites that the 101st Airborne basically got rid of the Nazis, got the Nazis out. So I love history too. I've written a couple songs on historic concept too. So.
What's been the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in your life?
Well, I'll tell you, it was recent. I had to have spinal fusion surgery last September, and it was torturous. I was in the hospital for 10 days, and pain was excruciating, and I couldn't walk. And that was probably the biggest challenge recently. I've had some addiction problems over the years, but not in the last 30 years, 35 years. Being a father is a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And, just dealing with some of the career issues. I was doing all right in the horse shows. Sometimes in the Furies days, I was also working as a bookstore manager because wasn't making enough money in the band, and that was very frustrating. But generally, I'm all right. I can walk again, thank God, and I can bend, and but the recovery took a really long time. I couldn't rehearse. We didn't rehearse for 6 months, and I couldn't really stand up long enough to record, and so. But we're back rehearsing it, and the band just kicks ass. Real happy with this band, and the guys themselves, just great guys. You got to gut it out, right? John Wayne is a big favorite of mine, and that was his whole thing in his movies. You got to gut it out.
That's right.
That's true. You got to. What else are you going to do? You're a man. You got to take care of things, even if it's difficult. You've been there. I can tell just by talking to you.
Do you mind talking about your addiction, or is that something you'd rather not talk about?
Briefly, my main drug of choice was crack cocaine. This was in the 80s, but at one point I realized, I can't keep doing this, and I just cold turkey, and it was tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
But I got off it. Haven't touched it in 40 years, almost 40 years. So cocaine in general, even, just hard drugs, Bye-bye. Wasn't good for me. I still, I was still drinking during that period too, but at least I wasn't doing that other stuff. In fact, they gave me oxycodone for my back, and I wanted to get off it as quickly as possible because I know what narcotics can do to a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just, so now I'm just on Tylenol and Advil for the pain because I'm still feeling pain too, as I know you are too. But that was my big bad couple of years. I was living in Hollywood at the time, so that stuff was everywhere. So gigs, hey, you want some rock? Yeah. Now I learned to say no to that stuff, which was a difficult way to, you had to train yourself, but it was difficult, but I got it.
So y'all gonna be like the Stones and just keep on going until you can't
Might
go
as
no
well.
more, huh?
Yeah. I mean, as long as I can sing, and all the songs are in the same key, except for Say Goodbye to the Black Sheep, we took down to D from E. But all the other songs are in the same key, so I can still, get up there and singing country for all those years. I can also get way down there too. I can get down like Waylon or George Jones, which I never did, of course, in the 70s when I was singing, punk and new wave music. It's just, even though I love the music, I just didn't think to go down vocally, but now I can. And as long as everybody's still healthy and happy and we're sounding good, I'm going to keep going for sure. Why not? I don't need the money per se, but it's nice to get paid just so that you feel respected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of disrespect in the music business especially if you're a player. I mean, it's disrespectful that Spotify doesn't pay you, for thousands of downloads or whoever else, it's disrespectful. And without us, without the singers and the musicians and the songwriters, none of these guys would be making all this money. And yet they disrespect us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's difficult to deal with. But when you're up there singing, nothing takes the place of that. I never lost that thrill. People are clapping and you're singing. It's a really good thing.
Well, with streaming services, do you think that's why the quality of music has gone down because they just need content?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They need content. They need an abundance of content. They just need to pump out as much crap as they can just to keep the corporate machine functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a compliant performer that feels lucky to be involved, then they can just keep pumping that same person out over and over again, even though they're not really contributing musically to anything except the cash flow,
Right.
I mean, Waylon made 65 albums in his career, 65 albums. And he would tour 200 to 300 days a year. That's hard work. And these people aren't doing that. They're not working hard. A lot of them don't even know how to sing. They never taught themselves how to sing, and same with the Beatles. The first 4 years the Beatles were before they got signed, they were playing hundreds of dates a year, driving all over England to play gigs. These people don't do that. They don't work. It's just there's the work ethic in the music business, especially in the performance aspect, is dissipated. There's nothing that bugs me. Ella Fitzgerald is one of the greatest female singers that's ever lived, at least since recorded music.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have to have 20 dancers behind her and a giant band and drummers slamming away. She just got up there and sang because she was really, really good at it. Whoever else you care to mention, Tammy Wynette. I saw one of her last shows, and she had a device in her back to continue to put pain meds in her back because she was in such pain. She had a lot. She had like 27 surgery, and I saw her at a fair event, and she was really frail. But once she started singing, she sang the hell out of it because the work ethic. You know, some of these people they can't do it without backup dancers and auto tune and all this crap. It's just the music business is in real bad shape right now. Not only because of the lack of originality, but also because anything like that's so massive, it's bound to implode eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the .com bubble. People are pumping money into these .coms, and then all of a sudden they weren't, and it just died. You know, I think inevitably that's going to happen. We are seeing, fortunately, a resurgence of the independent releases, like we did in the '70s, where people just don't want to deal with that crap. Let's put their own record out. You could make money if you put your own record out and sell it at your venues. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can sell a CD for $15. And it costs $3 to manufacture it. So there's a $12 profit for the band. But if you put the CD on Spotify, you get nothing basically. So I'm seeing a resurgence of that. I'm seeing a resurgence of independent releases, which is fantastic. And then when the industry gets bad, you see people going out on their own, and that's a good thing. My daughter's friends with a couple of good up and coming bands, and they're good, really good. You know, but nobody in our demographic has heard of them because they're not on TV or whatever.
Yeah,
They're you know, it's an underground thing, just like it was in the '70s and the Furies days. You know, and all the other bands from that time, the Zippers and the Weirdos and the Dills and X and all those bands. You know, we just did it because we had to do it. We had to do it, and that's the key.
thank you so much for coming on my show, man. This is
welcome, Kyle.
It's really been an honor.
Oh, thank you. Been great talking to you. As I said, we're obviously on the same page. A lot of stuff.
You
Keep
guys
doing
have,
it, man.
You guys have a website, right?
TheFuriesBand.com.
And what about social media?
We're on TikTok, Instagram. There's 3 Facebook pages for the Furies for some reason. So people haven't forgotten us, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, we're around. We're getting a lot of hits lately. So
Are you guys gonna put this out on vinyl?
I've been pondering doing that. I spoke to our manager about that, the Reverend Mark Montgomery French, and he says that if you were to, it takes about a year to get vinyl out, and it's really, really expensive. So
Yeah.
I'm pondering it, but I don't know. I mean, I still have some of the stuff on vinyl. See, but the record we do at the Foo Fighters studio with the band, because a lot of the stuff that we've released recently was just me and Dave doing all the parts.
Mm-hmm.
But now we got this great band, so we're going to record at the Foo Fighters, so that will come out on vinyl and CD. Right now, I'm just looking at the New Wave Hit Parade as just a download, but we'll see. Eventually, maybe. I'm not sure yet.
Don't stop making the music, man.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you and your show. And it's great.
And when will the new singles come out?
We've got a new single that'll be out end of October, and then in November we're going to go to the Foo Fighters studio and record this album, a full album, you know, with the band. So that's the plan. And then we will of course be playing gigs at the same time. So that's what we're doing.
Well, thank the guys in the band for me.
I will, and thank you.
Man,
Appreciate it very much.
It's been my pleasure, really.
Oh yeah, same here.
And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back, hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys rock because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.